I think we are finally live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to My Baby Experts. I'm Shari Criso, and I apologize for our little delay. We had some technical difficulties, and I'm just glad that we are here with you, and it's not too late, but this probably gave you some time to jump on. So I am excited to finally be connected to the computer, to Facebook, to all of you, and to, of course, my beautiful, lovely guest here, Dawn Winklemann, who is with us. Yay! So excited. Hi, Dawn. I'm so happy that you're here with us tonight.
Thank you.
Oh, awesome. Okay, I'm just going to make sure that we are definitely live on Facebook, and so we're just going to give it a second and make sure everyone's jumping in. Yeah, everyone's jumping in. All right, awesome. Okay, we made it. I think it was like 7 attempts of like trying to get on air. So we get like points for persistence tonight already, and the show hasn't even started. So we just wanted to be with all of you guys so much, and I'm just really excited to be able to bring you an amazing topic tonight, which I know you guys have asked me for a long time, and talk about and ask questions of. Pretty much within every Q&A we get these questions, and it's all about how to start solids with your baby, feeding your baby solids, those first foods, that first time where you start to explore moving away from just breastfeeding or bottle feeding to introducing solid food. And it's a really fun time in your baby's development and life, and it can also be super confusing, especially when there's so much conflicting information out there. And so I'm just really excited that we're doing this show together tonight for everybody. So everybody's jumping on, and now I see everyone in the chat room. Can you see your chat room there?
Yes.
Awesome. So I'm going to, let me just say, I want to say one thing. Tonight is the 110th episode of My Baby Experts. So I'm just going to say woohoo for 110. Wow. Yay, how exciting. So everybody can go ahead and just put in right there. I want them to type hashtag 110, hashtag 110, and let's celebrate together 110 episodes of the My Baby Expert Show, and many more to come. We got some big ones coming up too. So exciting, very, very exciting. Woohoo. Yes, woohoo. Okay, we've also got a lot of people from all over the world joining us, Dawn. I see somebody right now from Pakistan just logged in.
Wow.
So we've got people from everywhere right now, and it's amazing. So yay, yes, 110, hashtag 110. Okay, so without further ado, let me just say hello to my guest, Dawn Winklemann. She is a speech and language pathologist and also a feeding specialist. And a lot of you know Dawn because you'll see her on her monthly Q&As with Mr. Jamie Grayson, doing her feeding episodes with him, her Q&As. And a lot of you follow her, and Dawn and I, we kind of know, she's known me for a long time, but we recently met in person. So, and now we're just like, we were just like kindred spirits and like sisters from the first minute. And so I'm just really happy to have you here. So
thank you. Thank you.
I'd love to just give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and let everybody know about your background, and tell us about yourself, Dawn.
Hey, my name is Dawn. I actually am a feeding specialist for a couple of brands and also have my own private practice called Spectrum Speech and Feeding. And you can follow me too on Facebook at Spectrum Speech.
And it's actually tagged right here in the post too, so everybody can just link right over. I was able to get that done while I was posting.
Yep. And I am thrilled to be here because, as Shari was saying, she has been one of my feeding heroes. Like, being in the space of feeding families and nourishing, the clients that we work with, and you need to have mentors in your life. And I'm always trying to get more and more continuing education and and branching out to be able to learn more about different spaces. And so I've been following her for a very long time. So she's one of my feeding heroes, and this is just a wonderful experience for me. I'm so glad that we have such a huge audience, but this is a wonderful experience for me. So thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. Thank you, sweetheart. I'm really honored to have you here too. And I know this is the beginning of many nights to come where we're going to be able to help so many new parents and all their issues and questions and address them. So very excited. I was starting to say, well, you know what, I was starting to say that we have people from all over the world joining us, and it's incredible. My page has been growing so fast that in between live streams, we always have new people, like a ton of new people. Some people who someone shared the live stream and then, they just happen to pop on right now and don't really know me either. So I guess I'm going to just introduce myself for a minute because we do have a lot of new people. And if you're new, I want you to go ahead and post it in here. Just say, I'm new, because we like to welcome everyone who's new to our community, amazing community of new parents and expecting parents and experienced parents, and everybody's going to welcome you. So go ahead and just type in there, I'm new. And for those of you guys who don't know me, my background, I've been working with moms and dads and new babies for over 25 years. I was a labor and delivery nurse for many years, and then I became a nurse midwife when I was 26 and started delivering babies, and did that for almost 8 years, and delivered over 600 babies in my practice. And so most of my background was in pregnancy and childbirth and postpartum. And then I had a baby. And it changed everything for me, because I realized that so much of what we do as new parents really comes after the birth. As a midwife with no kids, you think about, the delivery, just like all of us with our first babies. So I became an IBCLC, International Board Certified Lactation Consultant, 10 years ago, and then started working online and working with parents like this. So we've had our show since 2009. And we were streaming way before Facebook Live existed, that's for sure. This makes it a lot easier. But we've been doing this a really long time, and it just keeps getting better and better, and the audience just gets better and better. And I'm just happy to have all of you here, and especially you, Dawn. Welcome to the show. So that was a big introduction, but we do have a lot of new people, so I want to make sure that everybody understands. So let's get to it, because we have a lot to cover. And we have two amazing partners, sponsors that are sponsoring and partnering with us on the show tonight. And I want to just mention them, and they're probably in the chat room too. We have the lovely people from Love to Dream, and they are partnering with us tonight and giving away a fabulous prize, which I will announce in a little while what the prize is. It's great. You're going to love it. So got to stick around. And then we also have we have a new partner, NumNum, that is, and Dawn's eating, she's got it right there. And they are a new partner of ours here for tonight to support us on this feeding show, because their product is all about feeding, and we're going to get into what they have as well. I have some great little videos for you, and then we'll do some demonstration as Dawn was just showing you. So let's get going with the first question, and then we'll come back to some videos, and then we'll go ahead and keep answering questions and going forward, okay? Anyway, the first question that came, because we got a lot of questions. There were so many questions that came in. It was crazy, right? All those such good questions too. Everybody was like, boom, as soon as I said, go ahead, post, and they were just like, I'm on it. Okay, so the first question came in from Simone. And Simone said, should you allow your baby to start eating solids once they become interested in them, or is there a specific age? I've read about open gut and got a little bit worried. So that, when is the right time to do this? And this question comes up all the time, and because there's a lot of conflicting information, even from pediatricians.
Right. So if you talk to feeding therapists like myself, we like to wait till 6 months. However, if you have a baby that's 5 months, and they're starting to reach for the foods, and these are some of the signs that we're looking for. We're looking for a baby that's able to have a good position, and that's able to bend over without having any difficulties and be able to, even if they're being propped up a little bit with some bolsters or a pillow, that they're starting to reach for foods and really are interested. When a baby's starting to really watch you and what you're eating and what you're chewing and really following with the eye gaze of you to the food, that's when I start to say, okay, all these things are happening. Their five senses are starting to develop to get ready for foods. But with the gut issue is I have a lot of pediatricians that are recommending at the 4-month-old birthday to start feeding. And babies aren't ready sometimes. And so if there was, a medical issue where we have to start solids at 4 months because of weight and they're going to have a heart surgery or something like that, then absolutely. But I really like to wait until the gut is more developed and the baby's more ready and not going to have a choking issue. Because that's what is a lot of my practice is that they start early, the baby chokes, and then they don't want any food. And then we're kind of stuck.
They kind of develop a bad experience to it and then an aversion. Yeah.
Right.
Let me explain just a little bit about the gut issue, because what does that mean, the gut issue? A baby and gut closure. What we're talking about is that, a baby for the first 6 months of their life, or approximately, the gut is sort of porous, or it's open so that particles can enter into the bloodstream. And think about it, when we're breastfeeding, we want that. We want those immune properties, all the different things that are in the breast milk to actually pass through. But then at a certain point, the body starts to get ready for solid foods, and that closure occurs in the gut so that it doesn't penetrate and go into the bloodstream. And so that's when the baby starts to become more developed and ready to accept solids into their body. And that's what we're discussing when we say gut closure.
Mm-hmm. And then and also with that too is that when the gut is not fully developed, we can have a lot more reflex. And so these babies are experiencing, this acid that's being built up, and can cause more issues with both solid feeding and breastfeeding at times.
Yeah. Those days in the olden days when they used to say start feeding solids at 6 weeks old are long, long gone. And even when, like Dawn was saying, even when, your pediatrician is saying 4 months, time to eat, that's not actually true. And especially if you're breastfeeding, you want to hold off for as long as you can till the 6-month point, and sometimes even longer, because even then it's not that it's like at 6 months you have to feed solids. And I'll have moms all the time worried that, a baby's 6 months old and doesn't want to eat, and they're breastfeeding exclusively and they're fine, they're gaining weight. It's like, yeah, they're getting all their nutrition from breast milk. They do not need to eat at that point.
Right. Mm-hmm. And sometimes babies aren't ready. And, sometimes you're right, 6 months isn't the right milestone for them. It's just I would say it's a general idea of when we're waiting. But if baby is a little bit delayed with their gross motor skills and their fine motor skills, and they're not able to have that balance, then they're really not ready. So all of these things, it's a developmental perspective. And so, the child has to be able to kind of reach and kind of hold their balance in order to make sure that they don't choke. So sometimes it is, waiting game for a little bit.
Do you think we should talk a little bit about that? Just like, what are the signs that we would look for? And it was one of the questions. I can't find it right now, but it's one of the, like, what are the signs to look for in your child that kind of, is it only that they're reaching for food, or they look like they're licking their lips when they're watching you eat? I remember my daughter used to do that, and I'd be like, oh, she's hungry. But what are some of the things that we want to look for that either tell us that the baby's developmentally ready to start solids, or that the baby's developmentally not ready? What are some things you would look for?
Yes. So if the child, and I keep going back to positioning because it's all about safety, but if the child is not able to balance, then from a physical standpoint, they're not ready. And basically what that means is that they're kind of slumped in the chair this, and they're not able to sit up and like, ooh, what are you interested in? And non-verbally communicating, with their eyes, with licking their lips, to really show that there's some communication happening. Babies showing expressively that they're interested in the food, and you're saying something like, are you hungry? Oh, did you want a little bit of this? Oh, are you looking at what I'm eating? And babies really starting to communicate non-verbally, and being able to really show that engagement. That is a huge sign, because basically They're looking at the colors, they're looking at the way that you're moving your mouth, and just really exploring all of these new signs that mom and dad are doing that, they weren't aware of that, a month before.
Right.
So, and then also the lean. We want babies to lean in. And so they have to have that support to be able to do that from their gross motor skills. But they also, this is the first step in trust. And I know that we're going to talk about that a little bit later too. But we want baby to lean in. When babies push back, when food is being around, the child is not ready. Or if they're turning their head, child's not ready. Or even some kids are even defending themselves and taking a hand out. They're not ready. And so we want this what's called
clamping their mouth shut.
Right. Exactly. Mm-hmm. We need to respect that nonverbal cues.
Yeah. No, good. It's really good point. And it's like what you said before that, what you don't want to do is force your child. You don't want to create aversion. You want to make mealtime an enjoyable experience, something that they look forward to, something that's fun, and kind of letting them kind of guide you rather than you pushing it on them. And it can feel really aggressive to kind of shove something in your face. So.
And I've seen it because, if the pediatrician is saying, hey, it's time, 4 months, I've seen parents just, when I go into the home, and see parents feeding and they're holding baby down and really, shoving in food, and the child really becomes aversive to foods, and we have texture issues and picky eating issues as they develop because they've already had a not a very pleasant experience with food.
Yeah, definitely. And what about the tongue thrust? Because that's a developmental stage too. Babies, when they're nursing at the breast, when a baby eats at the breast and they're sucking, their tongue will normally push out to suck. That's how their tongue moves. And so it's this sucking motion to nurse. And that tongue thrust does kind of need to disappear in order for them to take in solid foods.
Right. And if that tongue thrust lasts a little bit longer, so that's another question that I get asked a lot is, my baby is 9 months old and they're still having that tongue thrust. But what happens is, and this is why 6 months is such a great, milestone, is that during that time, that reflex of having that tongue thrust is starting to diminish. And so what happens as the suck, swallow, breathe movement, so using my tongue as an illustration, is the tongue is moving and going out with that. It's starting to not go out as far and starting to pull back, because basically what we want to do is have that tongue lift up and grab that food and swallow instead of coming out. And so it's going to be messy the first couple of times, but as that tongue reflex starts to diminish and starts to come back to have more of a normal swallow, that happens all around 6 months of age. And so the more that we give those tastes, even if, you're sitting there and you're like, I gave 2 ounces and here's 2 ounces all over me, the more that taste starts to develop and more that gag reflex starts to move back, baby's going to have that movement and be able to have a beautiful swallow.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Great point. Okay, awesome. Let's move on. We still have so much. We can talk on. I want to say this. You and I are going to be able to talk on every single one of these topics for the whole night. So we have to keep reminding ourselves to move on, because I could get completely caught up. I know that. So as long as you guys want to hang out, we don't have anywhere to be. So we'll just keep on going till we finish. And all right. And then a couple of you asked me if this will be available for replay, and the answer is yes. Nobody get worried. If you fall asleep, we won't take it personally. We know what it's like to have a baby, and so don't worry. It'll be here on my wall tomorrow, and you can come back and with your notebooks and take some notes and rewatch it. Okay. So let's move on to question number 2, which came in from Karen. Karen said, my baby's 4 months old. His pediatrician told me that he's ready to start solids. How should I start feeding him solids? Like, how is it done? Like, what do we do?
Okay. So making sure that baby is ready at 4 months, and we just talked about that. So pediatrician might be saying, yes, again, it's a go ahead, but you need to look at your baby's, readiness and willingness and abilities to start solid foods. There's 3 different methods that we use to introduce solid foods. The first method is the traditional method, which is the way that I was raised on, and you go from breast or bottle to purees. And that is a very safe and effective feeding method. It's something that I really like. I like kids to be able to go from breast, which is basically liquid form, to a thin puree, which is, basically a liquid with a little bit of texture. And then there's also the baby-led weaning method. And that method is basically going from breast or bottle to solid food introductions. And that is a great method too. It gives babies, more experience. They're able to kind of self-feed. They're able to explore new foods that the whole family is eating. And then there's another method called baby self-feeding, and that is a combination of both. And that is starting with purees for a few weeks and then moving on to a baby-led weaning method. If any of you have watched me before, I call it a combination feeding method, because we're kind of using the traditional method and making sure that baby has a safe swallow, as well as the baby-led weaning method. And I like to ask parents, specifically when they're getting ready to move to solids, like, what do you want? Do you want baby to start to self-feed, or are you so excited about holding that spoon and just offering it and getting all those cute little pictures of them, eating solids for the first time? And what is your dream in feeding? You've been waiting to do this. You've been waiting for this milestone. What does it look like to you? And try to, have that happen for the parents to be able to kind of choose that method and really feel strongly about it. When I've had parents say that they were really wanting to spoon feed, but they had a very independent baby and they just wanted to kind of explore, their personality. And I think that, it's a parent's choice. And as a feeding therapist, I just want to respect that and make sure that any of the methods that they choose, that it's safe.
I love what you're offering everybody right now, because I think, especially with the internet and so many people kind of like moms talking to moms, comparing and, saying like whatever this is best or that's best. Moms could sometimes get, can start to feel like they have to do things a certain way. A couple of weeks ago, I had Rebecca on here. We were talking about sleep, and it was sort of a similar thing. Like, what are the best methods for getting your baby? And there really isn't like there's one particular way. It's really about following your own instincts, what feels good for you, paying attention to your baby's cues, waiting for signs from them. And it's sort of this give and take of like back and forth between you and your child. Just as everything you do in parenting, it's like, feeling through the situation to like see what may have worked with one baby may not work with your next baby either. And so it may be your method, but you have two different children. And I could tell you with my kids, they were so completely opposite that Jade loved purees, and like I could not feed it into her mouth fast enough, and she wanted it like faster and faster. I was like, okay, how much does this kid want to eat? But she just enjoyed it so much. She loved to eat. And then came Talia, and I literally would like give her like the tiniest little specks. I'd put it in front of her, and she would like put it in her mouth and be gagging on like these little specks of like, they're both totally different. She just wanted to nurse. And so I think it's really important that there's not one particular method. You try what works for you. And I think a little bit of exploration too can really help. Try different methods, whether it's feeding or, baby-led weaning. And I want to kind of just cover the word baby-led weaning, because sometimes parents think that the whole idea of even the word baby-led weaning, that you're somehow not going to be breastfeeding. And so let me just say that any introduction of solid foods is really the beginning of the weaning process. That may take another 3 to 5 years. but any solid introduction is actually the beginning of the baby entering a new stage and the beginning of a weaning process. The weaning is a process and a long time it takes to actually complete. So when we say weaning, we don't mean like overnight you're not breastfeeding. We mean that you're starting to combine foods with breastfeeding where before you were exclusively breastfeeding, which is the recommendation for the first at least 6 months. So that's what we mean by weaning. And I just want to clarify that, because sometimes like you and I will hear that and we're like, we know what that means. And then other like moms will be like, but I don't want to wean yet. So you're not stopping breastfeeding. And as a matter of fact, and we'll get into this about how to introduce these solids and continue your breastfeeding relationship so that you're not interfering, so that breastfeeding still takes the precedence over all of this. So we want to talk about that in a little while. But right now, before we even move on to the next question, I want to just kind of give it, we're already like a little bit through the show. So I want to like talk a little bit about our partners and about the prizes for tonight. So if you guys want to win the prizes, you have to make sure that you like or love this post, and then you need to comment here in the stream telling me what you love about these brands, about the product that we're about to show you, and then we'll pick a winner sometime, probably tomorrow, okay? So the first one up is a longtime partner of ours. We absolutely love them. Dawn and I got to go out to dinner with them when we were in New York and had the best time with Ben and Luann and Elizabeth and Jeff, and we just had so much fun. I wanted to sit there all night with them and with you, but that's Love to Dream. And that's the Swaddle Up Sleep Sack Swaddles, okay? And if you haven't seen these, you're going to love this, okay? What this is, it's a swaddle blanket, okay, that the baby gets zipped, and you don't hold your baby like that, okay, but baby gets zipped all the way into, all right? And then the biggest difference between this and regular swaddle blankets is that the baby has arms up. And that's huge, okay, because this is a natural position for a baby, all right? And everybody's saying they love to dream. It's anyone who uses this tells me they love it. Like, there's not anybody I know. So the arms are up, which is a more natural position. It allows the baby to be able to self-soothe. And what that means is they can bring their hand to their mouth, they can rub their cheeks, they can soothe themselves, whereas when their arms are swaddled in a down position, it's sort of it's unnatural. It's not how they were in the womb. It's not how babies actually like to be. And you'll see that when you have your baby loose and put them down, their arms will naturally go up, and most babies do sleep with their arms up. The blankets are amazing. They zip from top and bottom, so you can change their diaper. There's little holes in the back, so you can put them in a stroller and strap them in, or into a swing. And then there's nice belly pressure, and then the nice splayed hips, which is great for their hip development. So that's the Swaddle Up, and they also make a 50-50, which has the arm that zips off, okay, so that when they're ready to start transitioning, the arm zips off and then the other arm zips off. And then they also make sleep sacks. And tonight, the prize, the very generous prize that they are giving away, I have it here somewhere, hold on. It is a set for one winner. Okay, we're gonna have one winner, and it's a Love to Dream pack set, and it includes one Swaddle Up Original, one 50-50, one Nuzzlin, and one Inventa. So that's going to take you from like birth to like 3 years old in Love to Dream. So someone's going to win the entire set, the entire pack tonight, okay? So make sure you like or love this. Dawn's like, oh, it's awesome, right? It's awesome. They make them in like lightweight, for summer. They make heavier ones. The quilted are amazing. That's what the quality is amazing on these products. So they make the heavier weight ones for heavier weight, colder climates. Just really, really amazing. Yes, it is. It's somebody said it's a great prize pack. It is a great prize pack. Okay, so thank you, Love to Dream, for that amazing prize. And then let's also talk about the other prize that we have tonight, and that's from NumNum, which is a new company for me to work with, but they make, and Dawn has it there, so I'm gonna let you hold that up. It's a feeding bowl, okay, and I wanna make sure that I describe it right for them. It's actually something called a gutencil, okay? They don't like to call this a spoon because it is not a spoon. And I actually have a little video that I'd like to play that will show about the gutencil, because this is perfect for the conversation we're having tonight about feeding and eating. And so I'm going to go ahead and play that video, but we're going to actually give away a prize of both the gutencils, which are both of them, and also their beginner bowl, which we'll talk about what's so special about that, because there is something special. So hold on while I show you my technical skills here. Play this video for you, okay? Hold on. Okay. There we go.
For centuries, babies learning to self-feed with a utensil have been terrorized by the spoon. Meal after meal, our children have struggled because they simply don't have the motor skills necessary to properly use a spoon. More often than not, they end up with more food on them than in them. Good news, the spoon's reign of terror is over. Introducing NumNum. Designed for use with purees and other soft foods, NumNum is easier to use than a spoon because the head is flat, so there's no wrong way to hold it. That means no scooping, no balancing, and no rules. There are 2 stages of NumNums. The blue stage 1 NumNum is ideal for kids who are using a utensil for the first time. Designed for use with thinner purees, it has raised textures to grab just enough food to give baby a taste of self-feeding independence, nurturing budding self-confidence. Those textures also feel great on sore gums. The orange stage 2 NumNum is designed for thicker purees and babies who have learned the food-to-mouth motion. Using surface tension, the channels capture and hold the food just long enough for baby to enjoy it. Both NumNums are perfectly sized to fit a baby's grip and are free of PVC, BPA, and phthalates. Dip, eat, repeat. When it's too soon to spoon, it's the perfect time for NumNum.
How awesome is that?
So cute.
So cute,
I've actually
right?
never seen that before. That was
Yeah,
amazing.
I know. I thought it was amazing. And I'm like, that is perfect to see a demonstration because to really see what it does, where,
Yeah.
you know, babies don't have that risk control early on. And maybe you could talk a little bit about that. It's also one of the developmental stages that they go through. And that could take quite a while, like up to, 18 months or even more,
Yes.
right? For
Yes.
that to develop. And so the whole idea between this is about this is that it has these little holes in it that the child can actually dip the spoon right into the food and then actually capture the food, the puree or the oatmeal or whatever they're eating, right on the spoon to be able to feed themselves. And Dawn's doing it, and Dawn's demonstrating for us right now.
and so they can dip, and then it just stays.
It's really cool. And so there's no back or front to it. They're the same on either side, so they're not spilling it out. I also want to say something about the bowl as well, because the bowl, it kind of looks like that beginner bowl. It kind of looks like a dog food bowl in a way, but that's because of the stability of it, you know, and so it actually is very stable. But the main thing about it is the way that it's sloped inside is that the food continues to stay in the bottom. So it's easy for the child to keep going back for the food. Like we were talking about before, we want to make feeding time easy and non-frustrating and giving some autonomy, right? So these are the tools. These are amazing tools that help a young baby or young child to be able to have some autonomy, feed themselves, and capture some of it in their mouth instead of all over themselves. At least some will get into them, right?
Yes. And actually, with both of these products, our sponsors, it's actually a perfect combination because when your baby is out with their arms spread, then and not swaddled to their body, then they're able to have the better fine motor skills. So we want baby to be out in this position because guess what? Sleeping in this position makes eating a whole lot easier. And so these 2 products just really kind of go hand in hand with the pun, but is to be able to have baby practice and like you said, you know, bringing the hand to the mouth in order to be ready to do this, you know, and bringing hand to mouth. The other thing is that if babies get frustrated with eating, they're going to just ask for the breast. Yep. So this being so simple and easy for them and to be successful every single dip makes it, you know, fun. And again, we're just focusing on taste at the very beginning when we're introducing solids. So if they do this successfully 4 times, that's amazing. We want them to have those tastes and be able to be successful with feeding instead of, you know, not being able to get the food, be cranky, and then really not want to be a part of the table, the part of mealtime, a part of food, a part of the utensils, a part of the bowls. And it just, you know, because it's harder and frustrating for them. And they're hungry.
Totally. Totally.
So to be successful at feeding, you know, our two sponsors are the way to go to be able to get them
It's so funny because you're saying this and it makes so much sense. And it's like everything else when we talk about your baby's development, their sleep, their eating, their nursing, their sucking, their tummy time, all kinds of anything, all the things that we do with our children are helping them in other areas of their life as well. And so when you talk about they're sleeping in a position that allows for hand to mouth coordination is only going to help them with their eating skills. And so they are completely related, and you wouldn't think of these two things as being related, but they totally are. It makes complete sense. It makes complete sense.
And Perfect. If I can show a strategy that I've had parents say with the bowl that this bowl is just for self-feeders, but yep. I use it for both. So if you're going to do the baby-led weaning method, or you're going to do self-feeding, and you want the bowl to be placed in front of baby and baby to be able to use the dippers, you can still use the bowl if you want to do some purees too. So what happens is that I'm not going to tip it too far, but can you see this cone? Yeah. I hold my hand like this and place.
I'm going to laugh so hard if you dump that on your head.
That would be awesome.
I was like,
really happens to me all day.
Okay, don't lean it too much. I could just see that would be me doing that. But go ahead. Sorry. Couldn't help it.
So now it's a perfect positioning for me. So if I want to hold the bowl and be able to feed, I've got this very comfortable bowl.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
So and if you have twins, which I have, that one twin is ready for, baby-led weaning and the other one strictly wants to be fed, you can do this with multiple children too. So
totally. Let's move on to another question, which is really important, and it came in from nope, that's the wrong one. Anyway, the question was about what are the best foods to start with? And there's a lot of different answers about that. And so I want to just talk about like what what should be our baby's first foods and why?
So it's such a controversial subject. Wow. Mm-hmm. I mean, because basically if you think about first foods, I mean, it's happening all over the world. Mm-hmm. It's one of my first tastes was coffee. And that is not a first food that we give in the United States, but in the Hispanic culture, we give coffee. Yeah. So it's, from different cultures to different cultures, and different foods are being chewed up by the parents and given to baby. And so I'm always saying against safety that, if I have to pick some first foods, I love avocado because it goes with both methods. You can squish it and it can be a puree. You can cut it up and give it as a first solid for a baby-led weaning. So I like foods like avocados and pears that you can really, be able to do either method, especially if the child refuses one way. If they refuse the puree texture and you really wanted to do that traditional method, well, it's the same food that you can just chop up really quickly and be able to switch to a method. So I really like to work with foods that can kind of be diversified in any method, so that as you're in this beautiful dance at mealtime with your child, you can switch if need be.
I think one of the things, there's two things I want to address. One is that there's no real hard and fast rule about which food needs to be introduced first and like how in the order in which they need to go, and that you can't introduce meats to your baby early on, which you absolutely can. And in some cases could be really beneficial considering the high iron content of the meat. When babies are breastfed, their iron stores are usually perfectly fine for the first 6 months. Babies will get their iron during the last trimester of the pregnancy. There's a lot of iron coming from the mom. There's also iron in the breast milk, which sometimes it can be a myth that, breast milk doesn't have enough iron in it. It's true that it has a lower amount of iron, but the iron that's in breast milk is very highly absorbed. And so it's really used by the body. But around 6 months or a little bit longer, it starts to wean off, and And that's why it's also important to start introducing the baby to iron-rich foods to supplement the breastfeeding. But sometimes that goes into like, I should be giving fortified cereals or white rice cereal, which has like been this, like, it drives me crazy because it's such an old recommendation. I'll let you talk about it. Because I still hear it all the time.
Agreed.
Right.
So yeah, it's, in some of the families that I work with that are from Asian countries, we're introducing first foods as sardines and fish and these very like, crazy, deliciously vibrant tastes. And, so I want to, as a feeding therapist, respect cultures and religion and try not to say these are the first foods. I do like the idea of introducing, meats that may not have a lot of taste, or vegetables that may not have a lot of taste, so that babies don't crave that sweet taste. But I've seen kids that have, really powerful taste, do fantastically well. And I think the most important thing with introducing first foods is that, are they foods that the whole family eats and enjoys?
Yeah.
Because I've seen, parents feed peas for the first time. In fact, that's the little blend mixture that I have. And dad's going like this and giving that face. And it's like, I'm like, okay, this is probably not the best first food. Even though someone told you that that's a great first food for baby, but you don't like it,
you're not going to be very enthusiastic. Yeah.
Yes, it's already stopped. Because
like if you're gagging while you're feeding your baby, it's not actually going to make them want to eat it. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Exactly. So we want to have foods that the whole family will enjoy. So, and that the tastes are delicious, and you're really, when you're feeding or you're putting down that bowl, that this expectancy of this like delicious moment is going to happen is really palpable. So we want baby to be able to experience that.
And I want to also say that their taste buds are developing from a very early age, including in the womb. And they're actually getting flavors the taste buds start to develop while you're pregnant. And actually your amniotic fluid actually takes on flavors of the foods that you're eating. This is all in preparation for your child to grow accustomed to the cultural diverse foods that you eat. And when you're breastfeeding, then your milk will take on those flavors as well. And studies have actually shown that when moms ate a lot more garlic, that babies tended to nurse more, that they actually like flavorful milk. And so their taste buds are developing that whole time. And so that's one of the benefits of breastfeeding, is that they get those flavors, and to continue to give them those flavors and tastes. And when you mentioned sardines, that was something that I remember as a little kid, that's what they fed me, with sardines. And I still like them, and they're so healthy for you. And I know when I had my own kids, I started to feed it to them when they were like little, like less than a year old. I was feeding them sardines, and they still eat sardines today. They like it. It's part of their diet. And so, think of the things that are good for them to develop those tastes for, because right now you're establishing that. If you are only feeding them sweet fruit, and then no vegetables, they're not going to be wanting to eat those vegetables. Trying to have a more expanded palate is really important, and these taste buds are developing right now. So I want to talk a little bit about the question that came in, which is a really important one. And this one is, my little one this is from Gran, I think I'm saying it right. My little one is exclusively breastfed. He's nearly 3 months. I'm wondering, how do I introduce solids to an exclusively breastfed baby? So first of all, at 3 months, we're not going to do that. All right, but we already addressed that. Okay, so we're not going to do that at 3 months. But when your baby hits somewhere around 6 months or so, there are ways to mix both breastfeeding and solids. And so I'm going to address that just a little bit, because I know most of our audience does have that same question. When we talk about introducing solids, we're talking about it coming in as a complement to breastfeeding. So it's like a complementary introduction to continued breastfeeding, and the child is still getting almost all their nutrition from the breast milk itself. And so it's really, really important that you don't start skipping feedings, or that you start, eliminating nursings to start giving solids instead, but that you maybe nurse the baby first and then offer some solids, and start slowly going into that, because we all know that nursing and breastfeeding is supply and demand. And if you start to eliminate feedings, or you're overfeeding solids too quickly, your baby won't be hungry to breastfeed. And what can happen is that your milk can start to dry up. And it's absolutely the last thing we want to happen. At least for that first year, the baby should really be getting most of their nutrition from breast milk. So that means that you do introduce the solids, but you're very mindful of the fact that you continue to breastfeed, and that you're still nursing frequently, and that you're emptying your breast. You don't end up with breast infections and engorgement and all the other things that can happen, and then absolutely don't lose your milk. Don't lose your milk. Obviously, as the baby starts to eat solids, the feedings may start to stretch out longer and longer. And so you may go from feeding 8 times a day down to 6 or 5 times a day. That can happen where they can go longer stretches. They're also getting older. And so sometimes they're sleeping longer at night. They may be eating well and then sleeping a good amount and having a little bit of solid food. And so things can change, but you don't want to just eliminate the feedings, and always keep breastfeeding as number one, at least for the first year. So I just want to say that there is a way to do this together. It's just you want to make sure that, that breast milk is not just perfect, excellent nutrition, but it also has a lot of health benefits that keep our babies healthy and not sick and protected. And as the milk, breast milk's amazing. Okay, so like as the breast milk, of course I'm saying that, but it is amazing because it's smart. It's smart like the body is smart. Okay, our bodies are smart. Our bodies take care of us. This comes from the body, and it's made for the baby in a certain way. And when we start to actually decrease the amounts that we're feeding over, the last 6 months of the year where the baby's eating solids, the concentration of antibodies actually increases. So isn't that funny? Like you would think it's the opposite, and it actually increases, knowing that baby may be getting less breast milk, and there needs to be more concentration of what the baby needs to stay healthy, and it does that. So smart, smart, smart.
Very smart. And it's very smart to continue to be able to have that extra breast milk and be able to put it into a puree. Yes. So I always tell parents too that, you still want to be able to produce milk, because guess what? If your child doesn't like the thick puree that you just made, you add a little bit of breast milk and stir that up, and they're still getting all these health benefits and the digestion benefits. So I love what you're saying about, breastfeeding first and then doing solids, because then the gut is so ready for that. So it's
like
just
timing it.
Exactly. And then you're not having as much reflux. You're not having a baby that is spitting up a lot more, because you're being able to have that first to be able to go into the gut and then start to introduce some solids. And again, if it's too thick, add a little bit of breast milk, too thin, and use a different utensil and be able to still have that wonderful dance and still be able to use the breast milk. In addition, if you're doing a baby-led weaning method, what I like my clients to do too is you can still have some of the breast milk and really soak some of those solids to make them a little bit easier for them to chew and swallow. So we're using breast milk no matter what feeding method that you choose in order to engage in that and still be able to, have that pumping and being able to still have baby eat it.
Totally. Let's talk for a minute about, you hear this, people are always posting, food, this concept of food before one is just for fun. It's like something people say. Some of you may have heard that before. And so I want to say that some of it goes to what we just discussed, which is that first year, breast milk and breastfeeding will be your most important piece of your child's nutrition. So that is absolutely true. But the idea that food until 1 year old is just for fun and completely unnecessary, I kind of don't agree with that. And I just want to get your opinion on that too.
I don't either. I had this choking nonverbal while you were talking, because that drives me crazy, because developmental milestones happen between 6 months and a year, and those milestones have to be able to be developed with food in order to have babies safe. I mean, I feel like I keep talking about safety, but that is really what we want baby to be able to be. We want them to be a safe and healthy eater. In order to do that, we have to move that reflex back. The only way that you're going to move that reflex back is with food. We need to teach baby to protect their airway. The only way that they're going to do that is with food. All of these strategies that we're talking about all have to do with food consumption, and be able to get baby to grow and develop, and to be able to develop the fine motor skills, not only with their hands, which is so important with the food, but our whole mouth and throat are fine motor skills. So the movement, swallow, the elevation of the tongue, all of these things are a very fine motor skill. And you aren't practicing that if you're not doing it with food, whether it's with a puree that's a little bit thicker than breast milk, or if you're doing, thicker pieces for baby-led weaning. The child needs to be able to do that. And it also facilitates speech development, language development, cognition, because they're wanting to engage in conversations about the food that we're eating. So it really, upsets me when, families are being taught all of this misinformation. And then we have a child that, is a picky eater, and, their speech is delayed and their language is delayed, and cognitively they're not up with their peers at 12 months of age. And so I really feel like, as a baby develops, it goes, into these steps, and each developmental milestone just really helps with the next one. And so I feel like it's important. Breastfeeding, obviously, till 12 months, but having these, and again, it's taste. It's not, they don't have to eat 2 ounces.
It's not one or the other. And I think that's where, we become too extreme in one direction or the other. And so when we talk about it like it's just for fun, it kind of it's almost like, then people will start to try to delay food for as long as possible. And then they run into other issues where the child's not actually being introduced when they need to be. So again, they're not following their baby's cues that may have been showing them that they're ready months ago. And mom just thought, well, food before 1 is just for fun, and we're having fun breastfeeding, so let's not ruin a good thing, and actually creates a secondary issue where the child now has to be taught how to eat.
Right. And has to rebuild that relationship. Yep. Because baby's communicating and parent isn't listening, and now we're having to build that communication on 3 levels, with feeding, with speech, and with language. So 3 developmental milestones. So food before 1 is developmental.
Food before 1 can be so much fun, but you also we'll come up with a new rhyme, okay?
There you go. I love it.
Oh my goodness. I'd like to just talk about, when should a parent start to be worried? Like, because some babies just don't hit that milestone like we talked about. But what if the mom's out there who's like, I've been trying since they were 6 months old. The baby's like 9 months old now, still doesn't want it. So when should parents start to worry, and when is it really more of a normal, just a range of normal?
Right. So I like to say, if your mommy gut or your daddy gut is telling you like, I don't know if this is the right thing, then seek us out. Seek us out, a medical professional, a speech language pathologist, or occupational therapist who specializes in feeding. And just sometimes it's just one consultation where a parent comes in and just is like, this is, the dynamic that I'm having, and I give a couple tips, it works, and then they never see me again. Yeah, so it's just sometimes just another eye to kind of look, or sometimes a parent comes in and they're just like, we're just missing something. And I'm like, oh, there's a tongue tie, or there's a lip tie, or, the way that you're feeding baby is a little aggressive. Let's work on some of these, methods, or here's a different strategy to try. And again, to be able to facilitate that dance between the parent and the child for a mealtime, and make that to be, something that's perfect for them, because it's very different for every single child and every single parent. But the biggest thing is that if your child is really not sure how to eat a solid food, that is the key. Like if you're really seeing that from a physical standpoint, they're really not sure where they need to move their body, or they're not sure once the food goes into their mouth and it just sits there and they're not quite sure, that will be something that from a developmental perspective, we need to just help them along a little bit. And so don't be afraid to seek out professional help, because it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. It just means that you just want another eye to kind of take a peek.
I think it's such a good point, and it brings up our show for next week too, so I can kind of let everybody know about it. But last week I was in New York at a symposium on tongue ties and lip ties with a lot of professionals in New York, and Dr. Scott Siegel, who's actually going to be our guest next week. I'm very excited for this show. We've been waiting for it for a long time. He's going to be joining me just like this next week for a big show on tongue and lip ties, and he's like the guy. He's the expert, one of the top experts in the country on this particular issue. But they went over a case study about and showing videos of children who just literally did not want to open their mouth, and really it came down to really needing that evaluation, and the child had a tongue tie, and when the tie was released and it was taken care of properly, the baby started to eat with therapy, started to eat again. And so I think the point you're bringing up, Dawn, is so important, that if your gut's telling you like something's not right, go ahead, don't wait, go ahead and seek help, be evaluated, and let the professional tell you, no, this is totally normal behavior and it's just a matter of time, or but when you're seeking out, who should they look for? A feeding specialist or an occupational therapist, right?
A speech language pathologist or an occupational therapist that specializes in feeding. And so, I do parent trainings, and so you can feel free to utilize me as a resource and come onto my Facebook page, and we can set up meetings for that, or find someone in your area that you can seek out that definitely has experience in feeding development. You don't want a newbie looking at your child.
No. And if you're continuing to go to your pediatrician and your pediatrician keeps blowing off what you're saying, and you as a parent know there's something not right, really, please trust yourself. Like, I will always say that about everything. Please trust your instincts as a parent. You may say to yourself, oh, but I'm a first-time mom, like I don't know anything. It's really discounting what you do know, because moms really do, and dads, they really do know their children. Yes. You do know. And so if something inside of you is just not feeling right, you need to get a second opinion. You need to seek out the professional. And sometimes a pediatrician, they're not the experts in all these different things. I could tell you that with breastfeeding. They are not breastfeeding experts. And, the good ones will tell you they're not. If your pediatrician, if they're not an IBCLC or formally trained or additionally trained in breastfeeding in some way, because there are a few that do have more certification. And if they're not, and they're telling you they are breastfeeding experts, then that's a problem right there. The good ones tell you, don't ask me, go to the lactation consultant. And it's the same thing for feeding specialists too.
Yes. And you can be an advocate. You can go to your pediatrician and say, could I get a referral for a speech language pathologist that specializes in feeding? And then the more that parents are advocates and able to educate their own pediatrician, the more referrals that we'll receive. And because when I get a kid at 3 years old and the parent says, we've been having problems since 5 months of age,
right?
It's just so frustrating. That's, 2.5 years of, baby and parents struggling to eat. Mm-hmm. And it's just heart-wrenching.
That's what I love so much about doing these shows, Dawn, is bringing on other experts. It was always my, when people ask me, why did you name the show My Baby Experts? You're one person. I'm like, no, because it takes a lot more than one person to talk about these different topics. And this was the dream that we had of having this show, was to have people like yourself come on, give this amazing information like we did tonight, and to educate parents so that they're empowered. It's all about, empowering them, informing them, educating them so that they can feel more confident in their decisions and also in what they're seeing with their own eyes, that they know. They may not know how to diagnose what's going on, but they do know that there's something going on. And that's the most important thing, and to keep on finding those solutions. So I just, first of all, I'm so happy that you were here with us tonight. It was an amazing information. Did you guys learn something? Did you love this talk? Because I learn something every time I listen to you, and I love our flow and that we can talk together about all of this. And I'm just, thank you for being here with me tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was great. It was great. And thank you to NumNum, and thank you to Love to Dream. We love you guys so much. Anybody who wants to try to win the 2 amazing prizes, we have amazing set of Love to Dream products. So it's like birth to 3, Love to Dream. You'll be set for life on this. And then we have the NumNum utensil and the bowl. And so you'll get the whole set. And so all you have to do is like or love this post, comment here about which one you love, and if you love both, go put love, but that you love both, and tell me what features you like. We showed you all the features of all these amazing products, so go ahead and talk to them. And please go over to Dawn's Facebook page and like her page and follow her and post questions to her and bug her, because she loves to answer, I know. So that's right there in the comment, in the post here. When you guys get done, you can just link over to her and also to Love to Dream and NumNum, and go ahead and follow them. And then don't forget to join me next week. I know it's going to be an amazing show. It's going to be next Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Dr. Scott Siegel. We have almost, I think, 300 people RSVP'd already for this event. It's going to be amazing. And it's going to cover some really important points and information that moms and dads really need to hear. And not only moms and dads, but I've got a ton of lactation consultants and speech and feeding therapists and pediatricians signed up for the event, which
I'll be there.
I wish you'll be there, right? We'll all be there listening to Dr. Scott. So super excited. So thank you guys. Thank you everyone for joining us, and have a wonderful, wonderful week. Kiss your babies, and I'll see you next week. Thanks, Dawn.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.